there be any special things for you to warm up? That's what I meant.
Well, generally I try to play. You know, that's the thing about guitar playing. You know, my gig is the most self-indulgent gig you could possibly have. I mean, I'm a solo artist who does nothing but solo, you know, on every song. But even in this self-indulgent world, I play rhythm more than I play lead. Even, you know. So, I mean, you want to get everything kind of like, everything working. You know. So you're playing both chords and lead at the same time. You know, like, so I'll just sit here and we'll have a conversation about the weather, and I'll just be, you know, it's like just playing different, you know. And then like you just kind of ramp up to it, you know. And this is early in the day because we're filming this television special at approximately 4:20 in the afternoon. So, you know, and this is the third show in a row, so it takes me a while to kind of, you know, the shows kind of beat you up a little bit, 2 hours, 20 minutes. So it takes you a little bit to kind of cover it, you know. By the time 8 o'clock rolls around, I'm usually pretty back to 100%. And if I'm not, I usually at 95%, and then a Red Bull will take care of the rest of that. Which tonight will be a sugar-free Red Bull. I can assure you that for free. But you know, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, that's what it is. You know, guitar. You know, I tend to warm up on guitars that I intend on playing later. You know, like a Les Paul.
Okay.
You know, sometimes I grab a Telly.
Would there be any? Probably could you, let's say, for you have this technique where you play with the pick, with the thumb, and with the fingers as well. So
yeah.
Maybe there's some certain licks you would like to.
Well, here's the thing: when you play with your thumb, I use these little jazz 3 picks, red ones or gold ones or white ones or silver ones. And I use these little jazz 3 picks, and the reason why I like them so much is because you can hide them, and then you can go to pick and fingers, you know, thumb and fingers, you know. It's very expressive. And then you can go right back to the pick, you know, seamlessly. You want to play fast, because I can't do all those hybrid pentatonic Eric Johnson-y bits without the pick.
Okay.
So again.
So it's a matter of how you feel.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, it's like, you know, but sometimes you want to get these like little like. Yeah, you can use pick and finger. I find like the low end. I think the tone of the guitar is better with finger picking. It's like that David Grissom stuff, you know, the guy from Austin, You know, where he does a lot of like really these textural bits of Billy Gibbons and stuff like that. That's what finger picking really allows you to do. Mind you, it seems like my favorite key today is the key of B, so you can modulate any of this anywhere, anytime. It doesn't matter.
Would that be, is it true that Billy Gibbons, you named Billy Gibbons as being one of the main influences?
Billy, among a lot of other cats, I mean, you know, generally my biggest influences were the English players first, you know, Paul Kossoff, Clapton, you know, Jeff Beck, you know. That's what you know. Those are my guys. And Billy Gibbons, you know, it's like when you talk about his playing and economy, but the sound, you know. You know, it just you know. He made that Les Paul really just barked, and it was like really warm, and you know. But when I would say Billy Gibbons among all guitar players really defines the sound of a region. When you hear him play, you go Texas. For some reason, it's just warm, and like you just, if you ever been to Texas, you go, well, that's kind of what the climate feels like, and that's what it kind of makes you feel when you hear him play. You know, whether he plays a Gibson or a Strat or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Do you want to maybe play a lick or some of your songs? I wrote down a ballad of John Henry as a riff, if you would like to.
Well, it's the biggest, I mean, arguably the biggest song I have to date.
You can pick your favorite song if you want, any. It's fine.
Well, I mean, like, there's many, you know, like, you know, I mean, there's many riffs. I mean, like, they call it, my fans call John Henry now John Change Key, because I moved it from B. Has the original key, and I used to play on a baritone. And I got so tired of.
Okay, so let's
play. I got the story is I got so tired of carrying just one baritone guitar for one song on these fly shows. I said, why don't I just try it in E? And then I just went. It just sounded red to me. It just sounded like this, like very vibrant and very, just very alive. And I just, you know. And it's just like, you know, and then. Take any of the mystery out of it, but it's actually painfully simple, you know.
Okay.
Then there's like Song of Yesterday, which I did for a band. I wrote this song with Glenn Hughes for a band that we have called Black Country Communion. And the riff was basically the stream of consciousness trying to like figure out what we're gonna do, you know. Because that's pretty cool. And then we just started to, you know, he goes, why don't you write the lyric? I'm like, okay. You know, then we came up with this. You know, and, you know, just little stuff like that. You know, it's like I'm a big, huge Free fan, so it's like, you know. So that's kind of like where that kind of riff came from. Was, you know, Woman. That's the song. Yeah, but if you listen to it. Kossoff chords right there, you know, like, you know. He always had these really great voices, yeah. I call the D without the middle finger, you know, without the fuck you note, right? Is that what they call it? You know, and it's like, you know, so I nicked a lot of those chords by listening, not seeing footage, but like listening to Kossoff, and then there's a lot of videos, there's a lot of videos of him, you know, live at the BBC or on the John Peel show or whatever, you know, and you figure out the Fire and Water. The index finger, but then this finger here muting
the other strings.
So it mutes the minor. So you play it, and they're just so direct, you know. And then you know and that's, you know. But a lot of my songs, you know, getting back to the conversation about my riffs, is a lot of those chords, you know, are very much inspired from, like, you know, the Kossoff stuff.
Okay. Did you do a lot of play along on your way out?
Yeah, I used to have a little boom box that would plug it into the wall. It was a tape deck. And Pete Way made a tape for me of UFO. Not Pete Way from UFO made me a tape of Free. That was the first time I ever heard it when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I met Pete because they were looking for a guitar player for then that inclination of UFO, because Michael Schenker had left again. You know how many times he's left again, or they kicked him out again, or whatever the story was. But this was in the 90s, and so my name got passed, you know, thrown into the hat. And I went to Pete's house, and he goes, "Yeah, you play a lot like this guitar player named Paul Kossoff." Never heard of him. And never heard Free. I mean, obviously I heard All Right Now, which I thought was Bad Company, but I never knew it was Free. And so he made me a tape, so I would take this cassette tape in this little boom box, and I'd turn the boom box up to 10. It was a little distorted, but I also had a silver tone amp, and this Gibson Les Paul Standard that was a Sunburst one from the 70s, some patent applied for pickups out of a SG that had been just destroyed. Like, body had been cracked, everything just wrong with it, but except the electronics, so I just nicked the PAFs. So I put it in there and the guitar just exploded, you know, it's just like a great Les Paul, you know. So I had this sound that sounded kind of like Paul Kossoff, just straight up in the amp, and the Silvertone amp was just loud enough to be just slightly under this boom box, so I would pretend I would be in the band.
Okay.
The key is the open strings, the sympathetic strings of Blue and Evil. You're letting that ring, and then you're hitting. And that's a good way to play the E. Was it the add 9? I call it the Hendrix chord. And that's again a Kossoff thing from Mr. Big. I was always going. And I go, it doesn't sound right. And it just doesn't sound right. And then finally I got those DVDs, and he would play. go, what is that? You know, and I'm like, sit there, rewind it, and I finally, again, it's just economy, you know. You could play that same chord like this, but it's too complete. So in the context, in the context of 100 decibels or higher, and 6 amps, all set per kill, you know, so you need to clear out some of that space. So I learned it, you know, and it's right here. So the Blue and Evil, and if, hold on, I'll go out of frame for a minute. You gotta add your standard issue MXR flanger. And you pick right down by the bridge. That kind of stuff, and that's Blue and Evil, pretty much. Yeah, like, you know, I hate to demystify a lot of this stuff, but it's, you know, a lot of it comes from where I grew up, you know, and listening to my father's influences, and obviously there's the two Erics, you know. Eric Johnson and Eric Clapton, in no particular order. I mean, I've stolen their riffs with equal opportunity, you know, and I've mentioned to them both on non-consecutive occasions that I did, and they were both cool with it. So, and then there's, you know, obviously there's the Gary Moore influence, and then there's the Jeff Beck, and you know, and then. You know, that kind of thing, and you know, Peter Green, Paul Kossoff, and Rory Gallagher, and you know, I mean, Roy Buchanan, Danny Gatton, all those guys. Those are my guys, you know, and I'm sure I'm leaving some out.
Oh, that's plenty.
You know, Hendrix, you know, a lot of people, you know, Freddie King.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Like a mystic lick?
Because you don't want to demystify yourself, so you can have a chance to.
You guys can tab that one. Get Dave Whitehall to do it. He knows it.
Thanks a lot.
There you go.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, hopefully it wasn't.
That was fine.
Guys,
No
do you want
problem.
to?